Hi, I'm Alexander Mejia. I'm the creative director and founder of Human Interact.
And Human Interact is here at OC5 showing off a VR game experience. Talk a little about it and what's it called again?
Sure. So we are showing off Starship Commander, which is a choose-your-own-adventure narrative in VR where you will decide who lives and dies. You will decide where you're going to go, and you're going to also decide how you're going to act. So we know that virtual reality is a lot about injecting yourself into the experience. So instead of watching the gun animation reload from like Counter-Strike and it's always the same, you get to do that with your hands and you get to do it in any style that you want. And so we realized that the voice component was missing. So there's all this canned voice acting that happens and it's like, that's not who I am. That's not how I want to say it. So in our game, we have AI controlled avatars that you can speak to that respond intelligently. And it's so good that we were featured at 2017 Microsoft Build Conference where they were saying, look at what people have done with our technology. So we're using Microsoft Cloud technology that allows you to speak with virtual avatars, just like we're having this conversation right now.
You know, like you said, you have added almost a voice assistant component to this, and you've also created one of the more accessible experiences in VR by increasing the immersion by creating an input device out of your own voice.
Sure. So you need to... People say, oh, it's a voice-activated game. Oh, it's not that great. You need to forget about everything you know about voice, because this ain't your grandpa's voice game. This is like something completely new for 2018. So we use artificial intelligence in the cloud, not only to determine what you're saying, but to determine the intent of what you mean. So we were blown away and surprised by the types of people who could play this game where English wasn't their first language. You know, people would come in here and say, I didn't think it was going to work for me. I have this accent. I have this speech impediment. I'm Australian. It's not going to work. And they try it, and then they're really surprised at how well it picks them up. Secondly, the voice system determines your intent of what you're saying. So, for example, I could say... the character inside the game, Sergeant Sarah Pearson, could say, hey, what's your plan? What are we going to do? And you can say things like, we're going to kill them all, or fire all the weapons, right? Those are all the same intent. That all says the same thing, but we don't have to program in every single little statement. And I think if you look back to text adventure games from the 80s, they had this text parser in there that was really rigid. You had to have the exact right word that you're looking for. But now we've moved past that with artificial intelligence because it uses things like synonyms, and it uses things like other speech patterns that they pick up because these servers run in the cloud, right? And so there's a lot of data being processed, not just Starship Commander, but a lot of other applications that are being processed. So it knows, for example, if I say, get the gas can, and I wrote that in there, but someone says, oh, get the petrol. It knows that those two words are the same and that it must mean the same intent, even though I didn't type in the exact word petrol as a developer in that system. So there are things that we hear players say in our game that I was like, that worked, but I didn't put that in there. And so like we are also shocked too at what other players do inside of our game, because it's really a playground that allows you to be expressive, to be yourself. You know, you don't have to always be the bald-headed Space Marine. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with being the bald-headed Space Marine. But, you know, maybe it's Wednesday and I don't want to be the bald-headed Space Marine on Wednesday. Maybe I want to be the kid with the red shirt on that's got kind of funny things to say, you know?
You know, and one thing I noticed about it, you know, outside of just voice being a large driver of gameplay, you do use the headset itself. But at the same time, you know, with look-based aiming, there's no need to... You could be someone who doesn't have hands and still play your game. And I think from a gamer's perspective, that's really a huge thing when it comes to accessibility, from talking about age groups that could play your game, or just even people with disabilities that could play your game, that a lot of other developers don't really think about when they're making a gamepad game, for instance.
So when we started building Starship Commander, we realized that there are a lot of new people coming into the virtual reality space. And we need those people because we want virtual reality to be a mass market, mass adopted medium. And so what do you need from that? You need hardcore gamers, obviously. They're the first people that are going to come to this because they're the technology enthusiasts. They're the people that want to jump into this. That's why I left my job working at Volition, working on Saints Row, to jump into this ultra risky business to do virtual reality. But we also need the mothers of those people. We also need the parents. We also need the sisters, the brothers, the non-gamers, the people who, you know, maybe go and they watch sports on the weekend and then they don't think too much about video games. They also love this product too. So what I find really interesting is we went to DreamHack. We were voted best of DreamHack virtual reality game there. And there's these hardcore Counter-Strike players and PUBG players coming in there. They're playing it and they're like, all right, cool, I like this. But then their mothers, their girlfriends, their non-gamer friends that are there just to support them, they're also walking in and they're going, oh, wow, actually I'm a gamer too. And so we're creating this brand new medium that allows everybody to experience it and to love it. We really think of this as a movie that's in VR, but it's been done right, it's been translated right, it's been built from the ground up for all the strengths of VR, where there's presence, where there's audio, where there's the ability for you to believe that you are actually there speaking to a character, and ultimately for you to affect the story in a way that feels really good.
You know, and I think one thing that adds to the immersion, and also just from watching someone else from afar play it, just seeing it on the screen, the visuals in this game are super awesome and really detailed, and you get to go jump and go into hyperspace. So who doesn't, you know, that's a large group of people who want to just sit there and be in hyperspace, I think.
So we knew when we were developing this game at first that this game needed to be visually striking. It had to be something that pushed the limits of not only what the Oculus Rift can do, but like whatever the best graphics card that you can throw in there can do. And the reason for that is, one, it's a science fiction game. Two, VR is still about early adopters, though we're at Oculus Connect 5. They just announced basically a consoleized version of their hardware that's coming out here soon. So VR market is now about ready to go wide. I am going to look back and laugh at everybody who wrote a VR is dead article because it's simply not true. If you look at what's happening here at Oculus Connect, if you look at the software that's being sold and you look at the developers that are jumping into it, you got big names like Insomniac, right? These are guys that have built AAA console titles. We've also got guys that worked on the Saints Row series, friends of mine that are now leaving their jobs to jump into work on the virtual reality projects. So I really see the future as being really bright here because we've got brand new technology that opens up new avenues of gameplay. We've got it structured in a way that whether you are a hardcore gamer or you're somebody with a disability that cannot use their hands, you can still derive the same enjoyment out of this. And it's in a form factor that is very snackable, right? Like, you go through and you play 50 hours on like Persona 5, or if you're me, Final Fantasy 7. I just played Final Fantasy 7 and I can't put it down. And in between those 50-hour stints, you want to have something like a movie that you can watch for, 1 to 3 hours ish, and be able to enjoy that and feel like you accomplished something that's in between those huge stints of gaming. And so we had to make it as accessible as possible. And that's the reason why we're gaze-based, we are voice-based, and there's a lot of enjoyment and gameplay that you can have from just speaking with somebody. There's a lot of games, and I think we proved that with Starship Commander. And as the future goes on, obviously there's going to be more technology that comes online. But we really wanted to focus on this natural language conversation that anybody with an understanding of English can pick up, that is accessible enough that everybody can play. And what that's going to do is it's going to grow the VR market in a way that we haven't seen yet before.
Awesome. So I just need to know where people can find out more about Starship Commander. When is this coming out? When can I get this? Are we going to stream it? Because this is really fun, and we want to let people know about it.
Sure. So Starship Commander is coming out this calendar year in 2018 in arcades. If you haven't, ask your arcade owner, when are they getting Starship Commander? Second, it is coming to PC. So we have announced for Oculus and HTC Vive sometime in calendar year 2019. I'm going to be very coy about it because there are still a lot of things that we're trying to get organized and set up, but you will be able to play the arcade version this year. As well, if you want to see where we might potentially stream it, and don't worry, we will at some point, you can follow us on Twitter. We are at human_interact, and we stream games every Friday on Twitch as Human Interact. No underscore there. I don't know. We couldn't get it without it on Twitter. It's okay. But yeah, just come take a look, and we hope to see you around.